I muted the tab and it still betrayed me. Good morning. In my head I was going to start singing the John Cena theme. But, I chickened out. I chickened out at the last minute. But the birds are back. For the folks who like the birds. Hi, Paddy. I've got this cool thing now. It puts both chats in one place. I can see them. I don't know if it comes up. I haven't got YouTube coming up on the stream yet, but I'll figure that out. It'll come to me in a dream. Where's the yurt? Do any of these qualify as a yurt? I'm a big fan of yurts, but they're big. I want to keep tents the same size, if I can. This should be my homepage now. Oh, it's the dream, isn't it? Dream is to be present in a yurt. Last stream we had Howdy desperately trying to summon the most round tent they could find reference to. So I think the plan is to draw something like this. That's where I'm at. That's where we're headed. I've got faith. Hope you have faith in me too. My tablet isn't working. Oh, if I do that, what happens to the... Krita disappears. Let's try plugging it in. Oh, here we are. Okay, cool. I don't know what was going on there. Yeah, I got the second screen. It was adding to my tablet range of drawing space. It was a nightmare. But I didn't figure out that's what was going on for ages. But I guess it makes sense. I think we do go... So the birds got copyright flagged. For the stream a couple streams ago. Hi Patricia, how's it going? The birds got flagged, and I was looking at it this morning, and I found the sound that I used, and it's definitely, copyright, completely, V0, not V0, license 0. So it lets you do whatever you want with it. But someone's uploaded it as a, sleep sound to Spotify, and that's what's getting it flagged. But I don't know enough about licenses, but I think think you can't do that, right? I know you can upload it to Spotify and make money from it, but I don't think you can then go enforcing the license elsewhere. I'm not sure. Anyway, I found an obscure bird sounds, birds beeping, birds squawking. That's also free license, and I just hope nobody's gone to the effort of swiping it for their own gain. 10 on the left is a Scout 10. Yeah, that's kind of what I was going for, because this is part of Augustus's storyline, which I'm going to hopefully have ready for the next patch. And you pitch a tent for him, so that's sort of the idea here, and his whole thing is he's a scout, so yeah. I think I mentioned this last stream, but yeah, this is strong memories of being in one of these with 5 other lads, and condensation being high. I'm good, thanks, Patricia. Yeah, a little bit, still just waking up a bit. I had not much sleep the last couple of nights, but and I don't do too well. I'm a big sleep person. I rate sleep. Weird, it's getting flagged. I don't know if it's worth. I just don't know if it's worth asking for a review. I think it's such as like a minor thing. I feel confident these birds will do me right. I feel strong in my belief. Yeah, it's just a case of finding some birds. Yes, this is new birdsong, but it's a more obscure recording. So I'm hoping nobody's using it for their Spotify playlist. Yeah, I stole the idea from an old. I mentioned this last stream, but an old tutor of mine who used to just play birdsong when he was teaching us how to use After Effects and stuff. Did I ever use After Effects? We did Premiere. There's Audition. Is that an Adobe thing? Did a bunch of Adobe stuff, which I've never used since. I did use it, a lot of Photoshop and InDesign back in your day. But nobody ever mentioned it. It was just something you would do, but nobody ever brought it up. Just assumed that's the way it would be. But yeah, it's a shorter loop, so I'm sorry if it gets annoying, but I think I don't know. I think it's the kind of thing you don't notice. Hankering on that. I'm not sure how long the loops are in the game. I suppose I could have used the Garden Paths ambient sounds, but I'm just so I just listen to them all day essentially. I've got the game sort of running most of the time, and I'm intimately familiar with all the birds in the background that make noises. And I wanted I wanted a bunch of UK birds. I don't know why. Just felt right. Me being a Brit. Whereas the birds in the Garden Path, I believe, are recordings from maybe not Eastern Europe, maybe not, something Baltic, I think. I don't know what is Baltic. Yeah, okay. Oh, what's that? Does Russia own that? Do you know the species from their song yet? I went through a phase where I really wanted to start learning birdsong better, and I can identify. I've actually got no idea what's playing at the moment. I can identify blackbird pretty well. I know there's a couple more obscure birds that you don't. Chiff-chaffs are easy because they just go chiff-chaff. Chaffinches, and there's a lot of chaffinches in the game. But I don't know how Chaffinches were always my favourite as a kid. I could never quite. Russia owned the exclave. I don't know if Paddy's messing with me. That looks huge, though. I feel like I should know about that. That's what this is. Kaliningrad. Looks nice. Gives them reason to think. Okay, it's actually historical. Oh, it's not that big. So what's... Oh, unless that's the town, and this is the region? What's this? What's this here? I feel like it's the kind of thing that should show me if I zoom out enough. I never mess when it comes to maps. No, I know. I really need to change. Why does this browser default to Bing? Here we go. Just doxed myself. I didn't really. Here. Okay, so the whole thing is just... Okay. I feel like I should have known that. Anyway. Maybe the recordings were there, I'm not sure. I think it was in the pack, because I bought a pack, and I think it came with a bunch of info. But that was a long time ago now. What does oblast mean? Is oblast a... is that a generalist term, or is it... I feel like I've heard that before. When I hear it, is that in reference to it? Oblast. Administrative division, so it is a generalist term, okay. Oh no, here we go. But it's giving this as an example. I mean, I only learnt Turkmenistan was a country like 2 years ago or something, so I'm not the best at geography. I try though. I value geographic knowledge. The word he used the word oblast used in English as well, but it's often translated as area, zone, province, region. Okay. I feel like I've heard the term oblast region. I feel like I've heard those strung together, which is just region, I guess. Maybe. Oh, I'm thinking of Donbass region. Is that a Middle East thing? I think it is. I think it looked pretty cozy, that region. That looked alright. I'd go visit there. Look at this. Looks cozy as hell. Nice architecture. Did the bonfire night on Tuesday. Huge bonfire they do, basically just around the corner from me in the park. And I think a lot of people from Bristol come because it's always a huge turnout. I think it's got to be more than just the like it's a local community thing, the organisation. But the roads are absolutely manic, and they do this huge bonfire. It must be like 2 stories high. This fire when it starts going, and everyone sort of stands around it, chills out with a beer. It's one of these things that sort of suffered during COVID. It's really come back in a big way. I remember, I think 2021, I think we wandered around looking for it, sort of half knowing that I wasn't going to be on, but sort of hoping people might be doing what we're doing and sort of find find like-minded folk. Do they throw on an effigy? They don't. There is no. Yeah, I don't think there were any guys. It's a lot of pallets. A lot of old people's chairs. Not old people's chairs. Old chairs from people, as chairs tend to be. Big cheers every time a pallet gets chucked on. But yeah, it's good. It's amazing how much heat that it puts out. I know that sounds silly, but you can be, this big fire. You stood they have marshals sort of making sure nobody gets too close. And gradually over the night, as the fire dies down, let people get a bit closer. But yeah, the amount of heat, even though you stood quite far away from it, really, always surprises me. Lots of people stood around, everyone always makes the same comment of like, oh, it's just something primal. Makes you just want to watch fire. But you don't see too many effigies these days. Penny for the guy. Is that my mum always talks about that. Penny for the guy. Is this the guy here? Can't quite tell what they've made there. But yeah, you're meant to make a... Oh, there you go. A lost tradition. Wow, when did they post this? 3 years ago. Children racing around with sparklers in their hands and sausages and potatoes cooking in the flames. There he goes. Okay. Yeah, I like Bonfire Night, and I feel like it's getting lost a bit in the way of Halloween. But I'm not gonna, not gonna old man it too much. They're quite similar, really. It does feel strange having them so close together. I was wondering as well, like, how long is it fireworks night? How long did we have? Did we have fireworks before Guy Fawkes? I'm guessing we probably did. We've had gunpowder for a while, right? So we must have fireworks. It was dying out when I was small, in the 70s. The guy was the effigy. Did we call it effigy? Is that just something Paddy said? It's kind of been replaced by trick or treating. That makes sense actually. Going around. I never went trick or treating as a kid. I feel like it was the kind of thing you heard Americans do, but it felt like this sort of weird American kid that the penny for the guy. Yeah. Alright, see you in a bit, Paddy. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen it. I think I've seen effigies. It sounds so witchcrafty, doesn't it? I've seen guys. I've been to Bonfire Nights where someone has gone to the effort to make a guy. I suppose the burning... Yeah. So I think maybe that's, yeah. I know kids are doing other things these days. They're not going around burning effigies anymore. God. They're just on the TikTok. I do wonder what you do as a kid. Must be pretty eventful walking around seeing if you get how much money you could get for a guy. I don't know what I did as a kid. I never really liked fireworks as a kid though. I thought it was a bit loud. Now it's all drones. It's all drones now. Oh, what am I doing? Let's go back a bit. But no, the drones are cool. I welcome our drones. Okay. Something a bit sort of looks like some clothing or something. It looks like some it looks like a chap with a hat or something like that. I might need to make it a bit more. Oh, you know what I've done as well? I need to I've not obeyed the. This needs to come out forward a bit more, I think. Yeah. But I'm powering through all the art stuff that I need to get done for the next patch, so I do need to go figure out a system where you can essentially sort of load into, I'm gonna, like a scenario, an instance, I guess you'd call it, in another game, just to allow for the Augustus scenario. So I need to figure that out. I might do that on stream, I'm not sure. But that'll be fun. I used to play that. Anyone remember Spore? That was a funny game. But they did like a thing where you could create scenarios, and I think it was the second expansion. And I really enjoyed that, like creating towns and stuff and characters in them. It's not going to be exactly like that, but it's sort of a similar vibe. So I need to create the kind of the spaces you'll move around. It's not going to be there's not too much going on. It's just one or two things. But as with anything, it's all about loading and unloading the game state. Spore. Spore was like unlocks childhood memories. Spore was this weird one. I remember reading about it in like in the Edge magazine, because my dad used to get a subscription to Edge, and I pre-ordered it like 3 years before it came out because I was so excited about it. I didn't even know, because it kept getting delayed. And I used to watch, as a kid, the Will Wright did like a talk about it, like a demonstration. I used to just watch that over and over and over again. And then the actual game was sort of fell a little bit short. I think they probably had some talks and realised they couldn't quite do what they wanted to do, which was a shame. Because originally it wasn't going to be like these. Because it kind of became like 5 mini games, didn't it? And originally it was going to be very... let's see if I can find the demonstration. Oops. Must go back, way back. Oh, here we go. An hour. Oh, sorry about that. Jump scares. Yeah, so you could actually, like... there was this whole, like, actual underwater section. God, this really takes me back. And then you'd actually... yeah, then the creature would actually walk up onto land. Which just must have been a nightmare. Oh, you got flying creatures were over there. I wonder what went wrong. Just none of this made it into the game. But the creature creating stuff was cool. Yeah, I should just watch this on loop. It's just the coolest thing to me. But yeah, the creature creator stuff was probably where they spent most of the time, and it's probably the most successful part of the game. But yeah, I mean, all of this made it in. And they're building the town stuff and the universe and leaving the planet. I wonder... 2005, man. Okay. Almost 20 years ago. I don't know what Will Wright's doing now. Kind of every year I'll remember Will Wright and I'll Google him. See what he's up to. I don't know if Spore was his last project. It might have been. But I was a big fan of The Sims growing up. Used to just spend hours on The Sims 1. Making magic. But it was always one of those, you know, as a kid you'd have to write down your heroes. I feel like that was a common... I'd always write... I think Will Wright was a common one. Matt Groening as well. I'd always write. I think it was those two. Sims 1 was quirky. Yeah, I'd love to go back. It probably hasn't aged as well as I remember. But yeah, it just had this cool... I mean, it was of that time, wasn't it? It was that weird kind of... Windows 95. There was that kind of weird optimism, but then kind of sort of spooky Americana kind of thing going, which I think translated quite well into Sims 2. But it wasn't really there for Sims 3 and then Sims 4. It's sort of gone on its own way. But yeah, everything felt sort of like a shopping catalogue. It was like this kind of weird version of America, wasn't it? I'm really surprised that nobody's... there's very little competition in that market. I think someone could do quite well doing sort of like a nostalgia bait Sims 1 thing. I reckon it wouldn't... But maybe nobody would play it, I don't know. Which means they wouldn't do quite well. But, I don't know, I'm just surprised. Or even just like a simple... I feel like often when they're making these, there's a certain aesthetic with these life sim games where it's all kind of sort of a little bit too clean. There's one in early access. I wonder if it's what I'm thinking though. If I, I'm not even sure. Sims Clone is maybe a bit unfair. Tiny Life. Tiny Life game. Oh, like this? Ah, okay. This isn't far off. Oh, it was a while ago. I I can't believe I've never heard of this. Yeah, it's not. It's definitely in the. It's not doing what I was about to accuse it of doing. It looks good and quirky. Because I feel like maybe there's two different reasons you'd play Sims. There's kind of like an escapism sort of, building your ideal life. You kind of make the ideal house, and then there's kind of that side where it's like, I've got a load of sort of quirky people and we're going to sort of create quirky scenarios of like, and some lean into the former, some lean. I feel like Sims 1 was more so that kind of just create quirky scenarios and see how it plays out. And I think we sort of slowly leaned into that world of I'm not even sure how to describe it. There was an announcement recently, wasn't it, that they weren't going to make a Sims 5? They just announced they were going to sort of keep it trucking on Sims 4. I do find it funny when these games, like, they'll sort of, I don't know, it just feels weird that software as a service games will be a number. Like The Sims ends with Sims 4, even though there were 3 before it that, only had 2 or 3. Well, maybe not. How long was the life cycle on them? Because Sims 4 is 10 years old now. It seems crazy. Hi Cheese, how's it going? I'm sure there's other examples. You missed the Spore chat, I'm afraid. You're a fan of Spore. I probably did play a lot of Spore. Isn't it like, it's got like horrible, DRM, doesn't it? It's like really hard to get a proper version of it. I remember looking into buying it recently. I don't know if the GOG version's good. I remember when you bought it, you could only install it 5 times. There was something like that, wasn't there? Which I don't think anyone's ever done since or before. It was bizarre. It was like, you're on 3 of 5. I remember as a kid that was stressful because as a kid you don't know what you're gonna like. What if I want to install this in when I'm 30? You didn't know what's going on when you were a kid. You didn't know what life decisions you might make. Yeah, very strange. Very strange sort of paranoia, I guess. I don't know, what do they say about it on GOG? Oh, and it just looks so much worse. It just looks so much worse than I remember it. Oh no. Like, they definitely had, I don't know whether it's just the fidelity, but there was a different aesthetic to it at the time. I've really forgotten how bad it looks. It's not so bad. It's not aged well. Oh no, that's literally what I was saying, Cheese. I was saying, I used to, as a kid, I would just watch that video over and over and over again. And then I think I was able to pre-order it. I was saying I pre-ordered it like 3 years before it actually came out. When I was like, I don't know. How old was I in 2005? Well, I would have been 10. So, definitely captured my imagination as a 10-year-old. I didn't know, there wasn't too many of those games for me, like, that sense of it arriving in the mail. I guess you just don't get that anymore. It's almost like the anticlimax of it coming out, and then you've got to pre-install it, I guess. Hit and launch. I don't know, it's not quite the same as cracking it open in the mail. Didn't dislike the game itself. I missed that version. Was more about that's what I was saying. Yeah, but I think it must have just been a technical limitation. I think they were able to get a tech demo. The amount of effort it takes to like create a demo compared to create like the final thing is just, people don't realize like it must have taken ages to produce something like this, right? But then to actually get it to this state is ultimately like 99% of the work on top of that. People telling you to pirate it. No Man's Sky's cooler, father. I don't know if I'd go that far. I've still not played No Man's Sky. I feel like I might like it, but I might also just have nothing to do with it. I don't know. I might just pick it up and go, eh. But yeah, I was just mentioning it because they had different expansion packs, and I was just reminiscing about creating scenarios. Spore Wiki. Yeah, Galactic Adventures. I had a lot of fun with that. Was that the only one? I thought there was more than that. Oh, that's a shame. Didn't go very far then. Wow. Some parts packs. Yeah, I never got the parts packs. I don't think we'd get a game like that again. I think that was a one and done. I don't know how well it did commercially. Saved up and bought collector's edition copies for all my friends on the day of release. Really? Bless you. I remember having. I think I'm probably the only person who really liked it. I must have poured hours into it, but I think there was a stinge of disappointment. Like it just wasn't. It wasn't the Will Wright presentation. But I remember ultimately having like 3 copies of the game. I don't know. I guess eventually they were just giving it out. I won some competition when I was a kid and walked away with a copy, which I thought was funny. Even when I was a kid, I remember thinking like sort of ironic how I spent so long pining for this game, and then now they're just giving it away. They weren't giving it away. I can't remember how I came across the 3rd one. I remember having 3 boxes on the shelf and thinking, well, 15 installs. Got my 15 installs. That'll last me. A bunch of aspects I feel are lackluster. I think after being such a hand-holdy game, many players. Yeah, and I think actually as a kid, the sandbox of the space phase, I think that's where I tripped up as a kid. I think I needed the hand-holding really. I know a lot of people said the space phase was like the meat and potatoes really. And even as a kid, I remember I think I just got to that point and I was just a bit done. Like I kind of, it's like the whole thing of like starting a new Pokemon game feels really fresh because it's like what could happen. And then once you get to that kind of spacey phase, it felt like I've established myself. I did play it. I remember when I got a bit older, I revisited it and played it a bit. But It'd be cool to have a really cool, like, sandboxy space game. I just wish there were more games where the focus, like, well, yeah, wasn't on like space combat and stuff, but it is just about like your ship and your crewmates, and I guess kind of like FTL, but yeah, I was saying I don't know what World Writer's doing now. I don't know if Spore was just such a failure that they had to, or maybe it's just, yeah, 2007 is his last thing on. Super Fun, yeah, I remember that. But I don't think it went anywhere. Super Fun Happy Club. I might not even be mentioned here. Stupid Fun Club, that was it. Which I don't know what he did with that. 2021 Wrench announced a new project in a partnership with Gala Games. Are they the ones who make like mobile games? Rings a bell. Oh, so he's doing something. Oops, I closed it. Hobbies. I wonder how many people have hobbies on their. It's a Rudy Giuliani. Oh wow, times have changed. Voxiverse 3 years ago, a blockchain game. Oh, he's doing NFT and crypto stuff. Oh well. Oh well. Good times. Wasn't his first game like the helicopter game, and he just thought he was flying around in the simulated helicopter, and he thought, I wonder what's going on down in the little houses, and then, oh no, I think he made the helicopter game, then he made Sim City, and then he made The Sims. It's just sort of funny how those things go. How it all started with the helicopter. Grab the level editor. Oh, okay, I didn't know that. I remember hearing something about him being like, I've made this cool helicopter, I've got to fly around something. Got to do something with it. Got to buzz out thinking about the layouts and planning while making the levels, ended up turning that into a game. That's how it starts. I do wonder what it was like getting into games development back then. Most space games aren't focused on the combat, ended up being colony sims. Yeah, I guess I feel like it would be cool to play like a, I don't know, I like the idea of having a game. It could even be like a pirate game, right, where you're managing your crew, and you kind of just go on little cool adventures. I just think that'd be cool. I just feel like there aren't games like that. I'm not, where's the appeal not being found? Because FTL kind of had that, but I think it was sort of, it's a little bit sort of like, not survivally, but it was kind of fun, imposing personalities you'd kind of made up for the characters. But what's a game called The Awaiting, where you play as the AI on the last starship to leave Earth to find. Oh, that's a cute idea. Was that just you? I know you do a lot of stuff as you, but someone else's game that I came on board for some art writing, programming design, a little sound for. I was doing some sound design the other day. It's actually really fun. I think, sort of thinking about like, because in my head I was doing I kind of wanted to slightly redesign the sounds for the designer in the game, just because I felt like there wasn't as much audio feedback as there could be, and I kind of wanted to get the sound of like a compass. I don't know, like in my head, like measurement tools, right? Being used and prepared, which is sort of something like I don't think anybody's out there recording, and it would be too small a noise anyway to capture probably faithfully. So it's sort of fun going around thinking of various things that could sound like that. I ended up, getting a rotary telephone, a tape measure. There was a recording of someone just like playing around with a McDonald's toy. And like so much of sound, it's like the whole there thing. Like you need to be looking at someone's lips to actually, so much of it is context. I just think there's a lot of fun doing all that kind of Foley stuff. So satisfying when you record or build a sound of, and it just, when you sort of take all these elements and you sort of combine them, and it just kind of, there's a few of those in the game. I haven't done too many. But the amount of value I got from, if you just like find a recording of someone just playing around with a big thick bit of card, I got so much value out of that, just like 5 minutes of like folding it. I'm really like, one of the very first things I did in the game was the sound when you, it's like one of my favourite sounds. I don't know if I can, do I have, if I launch, oh, it's coming up. Is that the game? Is it just a big grey square? Why has it done that? You can hear the game. Oh, it doesn't like that. Sorry, is that loud? Let's just... Okay. That sound there, I just made the sound. That's like when it got to be one of my favourite sounds in the game, going back from the options menu. Opening it's nice. I'm not even sure what that was. I think it was someone playing with like an old medicine box or something. Just feels really... Oh, that... And then coming back. I wish you could see it. Not that it really matters, but... That sound there. Why can't you see it? Do I need to... I might need to... If I go window... Capture method. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that sound there. Really happy with that. I'm not too sure I'm happy with this, but the continue playing, I think this could have even been the very first sound I added to the game. It's okay. It's a little bit, I think that's just like I think it was just a sample on a keyboard sound. I love this kind of unfolding. Yeah, it's just that sort of like nice, I wanted all the sounds to like be intimate. I think that was the important thing. Yeah, kind of. I think it sort of just sparks. I can't remember what got me the idea to use a what do you call them? Gyro? What is it called? Where you like scrape the back of a, you get those little wooden frogs. But yeah, it must have been the very first thing I added. Definitely, it's from 2018 for sure. I definitely did it in 2018. I feel like I want to buy one of those frogs. I just feel like I feel like I should have one in my house. I don't know why. It just feels like an object that I would own, and I don't. But that's probably the reason. I suppose if I ever had a kid, they'd probably get something out of it, right? I like the idea of wooden toys. Anyway, yeah, sound design. It's fun. There are huge ones in some of those photos, were they? I'm trying to imagine how you're thinking of something like this, maybe. I never thought about how big it was. Gives you a deeper croak. Bigger frog, deeper croak. No idea if that's true. Tends to be the case. Tent is here, mate. Paddy in YouTube chat. Who we shall always refer to him as. One day I will, yes, I'll get chat up on the what's it. Mine fits in my hand. There are a couple of photos of someone holding one. Sat, yeah. Oh, along their entire forearm? Oh yeah, holy moly. Whoa, is that the same one? That's even bigger, isn't it? What would you do with that? Is it an edit? I feel like it loses its charm a bit. I don't know why. I feel like part of the charm is that there's these small little, like the imperfections in the wood kind of make it look a bit more like a frog. I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, like surely at that point there's another. Surely at that point there's another instrument you could use, right? You're not like kitting out your studio and you're like, yeah, we need the Fender Stratocaster and the giant frog. I could be wrong. Are there bigger amphibians than frogs? Wooden ones? I'm not sure. In the world, surely. Amphibians? I'm thinking of reptiles, maybe. I've got this feeling if I search world's largest amphibian. Ah, salamander. These like you get these in like Final Fantasy games, don't you? Looks like a happy fellow. Giant salamander bigger than the Goliath frog. That's not an amphibian. Goliath frog. Oh, I typed frig. He's pretty big, yeah, he counts. Wait, these aren't all the same frog. Is it this? A big hoppy boy looking out. I feel like a lot of these are just like large looking frogs without context. They're all the same frog. Ah. He just has some good days and some bad days. This was him. This is him scrubbing up well. This is him on a bad day. Funny old things, frogs, eh? What are they like? Haven't seen one in nearly 2 decades. Why is that? When we moved into this place, we used to get like maybe in the first year we just saw there would just be a frog in the garden like twice. And we have it's like a little concrete. Yeah, it's not really a garden. It's like a space outside, I suppose. But a frog would I got this great photo of a frog just sat by our. It's like almost like the first thing that happened to us when we moved in. There was this frog. So I guess someone's got a pond nearby, but then I haven't seen them in years. So I don't know. Maybe the pond's long gone. They do like water, those frogs. Always talking about water. Urban expansions made them less present. I could see that, yeah. My parents' garden's absolutely heaving with them. Because they do have a pond. A fairly kind of, it's not a pretty pond. It's the kind of pond a frog would like. So that could be why. Pond full of frog stuff. No, I think what I mean is that the pond is like, I don't know, like would frogs go for like a well manicured pond? I don't know, or does it need to be a bit kind of overgrown and reedy and stagnant? And I'm not sure. Like, yeah, surely, I don't know. Like that it has to be a pond, right? Like, I don't think they can lay eggs in running water, so it needs to be like a. Yeah, places to hide, that could be it. Could be it. Do you find it funny how animals just like sense that? They just know. Are these homes for your vegetable friends? No, they're like, they're just tents that you can, well, the plan is to be able to put up and decorate and whatnot. Yeah, I abandoned the idea of houses for the residents. Sort of in my head, they kind of just wander the garden 24/7. They're kind of like, they don't need sleep. I think maybe for the gameplay sake of, it's not fun when a character's asleep. I think it could be fun to like wait. You see them and they're asleep, stood up or something. I think that could be cute. And you go up to them and they, I don't know, do a little animation where they get surprised. That could work, but in my head they are bound and it's their duty to sort of wander around. I don't know. Yawn and stretch. Yeah, that could be cute. But yeah, I think if I ever did do NPC, I think it would be cool to do like maybe if you befriend an NPC, that they'll like have it like each NPC has their intent or something, and they could move in, and then you sort of know they're going to be there each day. But I don't know, it could might have balancing issues. I'm not sure. I definitely want to next year, if people are still buying the game, I want to reconsider. Just have a think about the traveller's role and stuff, and how they're visiting the garden. Let's see if I can make it a more proactive thing. And it could be part of that, I'm not sure. Next year, glad it's still May. I feel like this year has simultaneously felt like forever and gone by so fast. I think it's one of those things, my dad always said, things that fly by when you look back feel the longest. because there's just so much. If a lot of stuff happens in a year, it flies by, and but then you look back and there's all those things you remember, and so it feels like ages. I feel like it's one of those years. Whereas if you kind of do nothing all year, it feels like ages. But then you look back on it and you think, you've only got kind of one thing to remember. Will you stop supporting the game if people stop buying it? I mean, I'm never gonna just drop the ball. But I've got to make a living. But there'll come a time. I've always felt like the amount of stuff happening concurrently ends up playing a big role how fast. Yeah. Time and I haven't been on speaking terms. People often say ever since the pandemic, time has felt a bit off. It's never something I've quite felt myself, but I do hear it. Yeah, knock things off kilter, I guess. But it is also that just like long nothing, I guess, for a lot of folks. I mean, I worked on the garden path, that's what I was doing. And actually, my freelance did quite well at the time, because I think a lot of people, and I think a lot of artists, or quite a few anyway. I was speaking to an accountant the other day who said he had this with a lot of artists, where just because everyone was starting up a bunch of projects, they needed art. And so a lot of artists did quite well on it. I was speaking to an accountant and he was like, oh yeah, I was working with some artists and they accidentally went over the VAT threshold cure and they didn't realise this thing. I was like, oh man, I'm way off that. It's like 80 grand or something. I can't imagine earning that as just an artist. But yeah, no, I did do well. I was busy during the pandemic, so it wasn't quite this sort of long nothing. I did this project about like encouraging, I guess, young girls to get into STEM subjects. And it was just one of those weird things where, I was all paid for, but then the person I was working for just disappeared. They were like, oh yeah, I'll get something to you next week, and then they just never did, and then I haven't heard from them in 3 years, so that was a big source of my income for a while, and I quite enjoyed doing that, which is it's kind of tricky, because you should kind of do protections as an artist. You can't really assume people aren't just going to disappear. Working from home already, not much change from their side. Yeah, it's all different for different people. There must be some people who, especially people who just have jobs where they're out and about a lot, just suddenly just having that completely change must have been a big shock. But yeah, it was kind of mostly life as normal for me, except doing a bunch of Zoom call, pub quizzes and stuff. Didn't cope well with an office job. Yeah, and I know a lot of people people don't like work typically, but I think they like the social aspect, which is not something I've ever. I've always thrived off just sort of chilling out here by myself. So, but I know not everyone's like that. But yeah, no, I was going to say, like, as a freelance artist, you need to protect yourself against people just disappearing, because, like, I basically had to live, I mean, I think I emailed them a few times, and I don't know, I think it just didn't do that well. the project ultimately. This is a shame. But yeah. But I'd never really signed on to anything that big at the time. And so I kind of carried on my ad hoc, just doing things here and there kind of approach. How are we looking? I do want to... Oh, sorry, that's me. Why do I have my emails open? Was it me? Oh, it was. I keep getting emails from... I pay £3 a year. A hearty donation to be part of my local association for the neighbourhood. But they sent me a lot of emails. I feel like I would pay a bit more than £3 a year. I suppose I could actually. There's probably no upper limit. Okay, I've closed my emails now. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think we can. There's something missing. I do want to do some windows, or flaps at least. But it's okay. There's a project I'm dying to get back to that I had a collaborator that I hadn't spoken to and put it on hold. Oh, I did the coolest. I was working on this. I think they were kind of making a Metroidvania game, but it had all this cool. You might have seen some of it, Cheese. I repost it quite often because I'm quite happy with it. But this cool kind of old Mexican folk art, and it was just so cool. Like researching sort of the old art, the old traditions and the patterns and stuff, and creating characters based on that and whatnot. And I was just given free rein. And then it was similar. They just sort of went, "I'll put it on hold and I'll get back to you," and then it just just never happened. Yeah, it was cool. Had a lot of fun with that. And again, it gave me pretty much free rein to just design all the characters. But them's the breaks. Just trying to match the perspective. Can cheat a little bit. Love those collaborations where there's trust in whatever you do. Yeah, and I think to push back on that a little, I think I do the best work when I think I've definitely done projects where the other person isn't willing to give any feedback, or they kind of have this, you're the guy, Louis. I have full trust in you. Whereas I think if there's they trust my judgment ultimately, but then there's a good stream of feedback that I'm able to reflect on. I think I often, because often there's problems with my work that I don't see, and then they'll point it out, and actually in reflection, not always the case. Sometimes, I mean, I've done plenty of projects where it's completely opposite. They've got, I feel like I keep changing things and it just gets worse and worse and worse. I'm sort of like, I wish it could have just been, I wish it could have just looked how I started, but I'm not the boss of it. But no, usually I think feedback, you do the best work based on feedback. So there's this phenomenon with clients where they'll sort of say, and this is why you've got to be really careful to get it right the first time, but you'll do something in like a yellow or something like that, and you'll do it in this yellow, and they'll go, oh, that looks great, but could we make the yellow a bit more orange or something? And you go, yeah, no problem, that's so easy. And then you do it in this, and the trouble is, because now we're in, and then you enter this zone where now everything in between these two things is possible, right? Whereas if the yellow's never brought into question, then the yellow's fine. But suddenly you've got something to compare it to, and you've got this wealth of every single colour in between these two things, and it becomes, and then you get stuck in this like back and forth where I think most people actually don't mind any colour as long as it's right within reason. And you do this whole piece, and then you sort of get stuck on like the colour of one leaf, just because suddenly you've been given the comparison. Which I'm not saying is, it's my job to get it right the first time. But, well, maybe not. But it's just something that happens. I think reflection is a key thing. You often end up with clients who feel like they've been given input. I mean, I feel like I might be a annoying client. I can be a bit, and if you've got the vision for something, I totally get why people want to steer it that way. I mean, back when I was starting out, it would kind of annoy me when you sort of go, this is my portfolio, and then they start trying to steer you away from your own thing, and it sort of makes you wonder, like, why are you hiring me, And I used to do that sometimes. I used to feel like here's some great artists who work in exactly the kind of style that you want. You should go to them. I think the answer is I was just cheaper, and it's sort of cheaper to try and force me into this space. But it's just the things you figure out when you're starting out. Figuring out what you can negotiate. I'm very fortunate that pretty much all my clients have been just absolute dreams to work with, really. I don't know how I've ever gotten so lucky. I think when I was really starting out, I was working for very little money. You got a lot of people who were sort of quite keen to, and my philosophy was always like, just get the work done, and then don't work with them again. Do a good job, make them happy, and then don't go back. Which maybe I wasn't advocating for myself enough. I'm not sure, but I think it's probably the right strategy, because it's probably more of a pain to deal with an unhappy client than. But the amount of people who you're working for something, and for some reason something goes wrong in life, and you can't get that thing done that you said you were gonna do. Things happen, and you say, oh, I just need an extra day or something. Or most people are just like, oh yeah, you've got all the time in the world, don't worry. And I just can't believe, I've always been so lucky not to have these crazy deadlines. But I think that also comes with I've always been I almost always make it a point to send something every day, if I can, just like an update, because as always said, there's no such thing as too much communication. I'm sure that's not quite true. My favourite is when a client reveals some critical requirements at the end of a job. Yeah. Oh, and there's this other phenomenon where um, you draw something, you create something within a certain scope. I can't think of an example now. I feel like maybe like I design a character in Vector or something, and you just like they're just like, oh, we just need a character, and you get it out the door, and then you don't realise, but what you're actually doing is you've created this key branding asset for this thing that you're going to then be working with for the next 2 or 3 years. This has definitely happened to me before, just on and off. It just comes and goes. But you just, or not 2 or 3 years, but okay, some months maybe. It's probably more common. And you think if I knew what the scope of what I'd be doing up front, and I don't think they know either. To be fair, so it's not like it's not like they're keeping it from me, but I would have built this in such a different way to allow for that scope. Anyway, but yeah, it's a pain. You go back to everything and you sort of do a little tweak. Every time you sort of patching it a bit, and it sort of becomes this monster. Like you send it to them and they're like, oh, that thing you did, and let's just sort of add this to it, and it wasn't really designed to be added to. You didn't know it's going to be added to, and then you're just sort of constantly adding, and it becomes this like Frankenstein thing with like a million horrible layers, and you just forget how you built the thing. Happens a lot. And so, but then at the same time, it's like, should I, you're saving them a lot of time and trouble by, most cases you just want to create something that you can just ship. It looks good and it's shippable, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But so point being, I don't know if it's necessarily the case that the answer is to assume it's going to be this huge multifaceted thing every time. Like so rarely does anyone ask me for the file, like the source files, and then when they do, and I realise it looks like, well, I never name layers or anything. I just select layers, and suddenly like, oh yeah, no problem. And you got to go in and tidy everything up. You got like old references and just files with visibility turned to false, or like you took a screenshot and just for a reference, and it's got like your shopping list from November in there. Just stuff you got to keep a lookout for. Or I realised I was doing this thing. I was working in a bunch of vector files, which are like, the vector files are nice and small. I love working in vector because all the files are like 5 KB, and I realised I had this one screenshot in every single file because I kept using the same base file, and it was making all the files like 10 times, 100 times probably larger in file size, and so I had to go through all of them and remove this old screenshot that I just sort of had somewhere in all of the files. You learn. I always think if I had one advice for digital artists, I'd say learn how to work in vectors, because that's what people want usually. People go, oh, well, it's not my style, I don't work in that, and it's like, well, it's a pain, but once you get down, you can make your style fit in. And it just takes a little bit of learning. It took me some time. I don't think it opens up a lot. You love working in Inkscape? Ooh. I wish I did. I tell you the one thing that really slows me down is like for what I'm doing here, like I use layer masks for everything. I don't know if you can see here, but if this is, I don't know if you work in Creative Cheese, but like if I couldn't just really quickly mask everything to the shape beneath it, and Inkscape does not make that easy. I don't know. Every time I go back to it, I'm like, I wonder if they've made that easier. But and I know, like, technically, Inkscape it's one of these weird things, isn't it, where like layers aren't really a thing with vectors, and so the idea of like layers being, because Inkscape has like groups and stuff, and then whether or not a group is actually above the other, and I don't know. Take for granted the kind of workflow that a lot of more modern software uses. I know you can do it, and I remember thinking like I need to move away from certain tools and just like be reliant on Inkscape, but it just can't work quickly enough. It's a shame. Inkscape does have layers, but they're different. Ogres have layers. It's different to how other software does layers. Just because I think like it's not a thing, right? And it has its own kind of file format. And, yeah, groups with special identifiers. Yeah, I know it's all there, but I don't know. There's just something. It doesn't feel. You can just sort of feel that it wasn't built. It wasn't built from the ground up with layers in mind. You can kind of still feel the how they thought about. I mean, when was Inkscape? Oh, later than I thought, actually. I'm always surprised. Like, you get Krita. Like, when did Krita launch? And it's like, did they do an anniversary recently? 2005. Okay. How old's GIMP? I always find these things. Some of these date back 1998. Alt OPS. All of those at the same time, or you just press those. I do remember sitting down. I was like, I'm going to learn the exact thing to do. But I just think, like, if I'm just working quick, I don't know, just didn't work out. But maybe I'll go back to it. It's changing all the time. They're always updating. But yeah, I don't know if Krita, like, what did Krita look like in Krita 2005? Like, what did the original release look like? I feel like they did a big overhaul, didn't they? Or it just wasn't the same software, really. Like, maybe it was always a KDE art program, but it wasn't. Release history. Do they have a cute little... Oh, no, there you go. Okay, so they were working on it in 1998. Oh, there you go. It's been all kinds of things. K-Image Shop, Crayon. In newer versions, P is no longer unique, so you can't just rattle out sequence of keys anymore. I wish I was more involved with Inkscape, but I just never had a good time with it, whereas Krita just clicked for me and I've used it for years now. Just don't need anything else. I use Inkscape all the time, actually, for the bitmap tracing. That's quite good. And often I have clients be like, oh, we need it in vector, and I actually get away with, you draw it in software, trace it, and then clean it up. For certain styles, anyway, you can't do it for everything, but... Martin owns on Mastodon as an Inkscape dev is very receptive to feedback. Interesting. I'm just worried that... I'm not really... I think Inkscape, they've got their thing going, and I'm glad for it. I just don't know what the new user experience on Inkscape is. And I do think I think it's a shame that something like Blender can be so like institutional and just work so differently. Because there is this convention of like, yeah, there's a color wheel up here, you get your layers here, your brushes, opacity. There is this codified way of building UI that might not be the best way, but it is just kind of, if you want to just get up and running, it's kind of what everyone expects. I think we're moving away from that a bit. I think some more modern software is trying to be a bit more. They're trying to reinvent the wheel a little bit, but. $100-hour project in Inkscape. And it had to be in Inkscape. I think that's probably what makes you learn things, isn't it? If you've got no choice. Do I have Inkscape in here? I must do. I do. I do like the new launch thingy. Is quite good. Oh, didn't mean to do that. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm not going to be here for too long. Just looking at it. I'm looking at it. I'm getting a size for it. What's something I would do? Pen tool, classic. Boom. Can you do the radius of a... Is that what that is? Oh, okay, that's nice. That's nice. Can I skew it? Snapping as well is a big one, actually. I find with vectors I'm always wanting to snap. I think it is a thing. It's like over here somewhere, isn't it? Yeah, I remember once I got snapping going, it felt a lot better to use. I don't use this UI layout. Maybe that's the trick. Maybe I've just got to figure it out myself. Have I done any vector work recently? Haven't done it in a while, to be fair. Okay. Oh, I don't really want to draw the insides of tents, but maybe the other one might be a bit fun. No hard feelings on that though, if you want to. A JPEG embedded in a PDF. There's a whole snapping toolbar. Yeah, I think once I got into the meat and potatoes, it was alright. I've said that too many times this stream. Never say no to meat and potatoes. I had fish and potatoes last night. I did like some new potatoes just boiled them up and then like in a thing with parsley and butter. I feel like it was missing something. I don't know if you need garlic. Or do you need like olive oil as well? I feel like the number one thing I can really tell who's like able to like in tune with how much stuff costs at the moment. If you're like watching a new cooking video and they're like, oh, add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I'm like, what? No one can afford that. No one can afford that these days. I just feel like it's really telling. Some people just haven't got the memo. Some people aren't looking. I used to pay £2.75 for olive oil, and now it costs £7.90. So I just don't buy it. Lemon and garlic might go. Oh, lemon maybe. That's for a litre. £7.90 for a litre. I think we can see. Asda. Ooh. Groceries. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, guys. Olive oil. 7.80. I was 10p off. But what is that? 7.80 divided by. I think it used to be £2.70. So it's almost 3 times as much. I could have done that on my head. I remember £2.70 feeling expensive as well. Like, litre of oil for £2.70. But apparently it's going down. Word on the street, it's going to go down. It's not come yet. And olive oil is just one of those things, like, you're a bit remiss, not remiss without it. Maybe. I can't remember the last time I bought oil. What do you use? I've started using lard for most things. Whatever's in the meat. Okay. Yeah, olive oil is just it's just so human. It is cooking, you know. Just feel a bit lost without it. Lemon could have been the trick. I think maybe I hadn't even thought of lemon. I'll throw a teaspoon of garlic. Yeah, I was thinking garlic. Garlic was like my first, but we were out of garlic, so missed the trick there. I might be overdoing it though. If you've got potatoes, garlic and lemon, just for like a Wednesday night meal. I thought I was getting a bit fancy with the parsley, to be honest. I think I would have added the butter, regardless. Oh, sorry. I literally got this second monitor. Do you remember I had the broccoli up last time? And then I went and bought a second monitor. I was like, now's the time. The broccoli was too much. But I'm still getting used to... the stream stuff being up there. So once I have that second nature, then there'll be no more broccoli. Switch my bird camera. I forget to change it back at the time. I just gotta have it. Like checking your wing mirror. You know, just always. Like I'm not changing up too much. I guess half the time, so it's easy to forget. My long-term plan is to write a bot that users can interact with to change the scene if they want through the chat. Be like that Pokemon, Twitch Plays Pokemon. God, when was Twitch Plays Pokemon? I've got Wikipedia. 2014. 10 years ago? Oh man. Twitch Plays Pokemon was 10 years ago. Would it be... Do you think it would be enough to just like... Would people self-police? There wouldn't just be some rogue person coming in, mashing bird cam. There just are these things that come along every few years, and they just make you go, how did we not think of this sooner? I think Twitch Plays Pokemon was one of them, wasn't it? And then there were a million copycats, and then we all got bored of it so quick. It's funny how we just pick stuff up and then drop them. I put it on a cooldown. People want birds. Oh yeah. Like, I'm sure it would, like 99% of the time it'd be fine, I think. I think you'd probably struggle for people to remember to use it. I think that's probably what you'd come up against. I can just envision that, like, guys, I set up this really cool thing, I promise. Oh, how does that work in Hive Time? Hive Time. I'll spawn a special bee for each active user. I do remember Fern had the idea of having... We were going to try and hook it up so that all chatters got like a little character to walk along the bottom of the screen. I'm still kind of fond of that idea, but I'm... Oh! I shouldn't say speak of the devil, but hi Fern, how's it going? I didn't know you were here. It was a fine idea. I think once I get I want to get more into the, like, you know, the streamy tinkering around and stuff. Unmuted your name. Oh no worries. Funny how things work out. Yeah, I hope you're doing well. It's been a little while. Been some commands I can do to customize their bee. Yeah, I wonder, because I've got a few with the main menu on the game. There's like will it work if I just do it? There it is. I can't remember how long it takes for them to start walking along. They're here somewhere. There's one. So I think I've got a few different heads, and they all share the same body. But yeah, I think I'd need to do more than like 3 or 4. Which I guess I could add them to the main menu. I'm not sure if I've got every character. I meant to draw every character for the this bottom. This is random, the character that appears under exit to desktop. There you go, we've got apple, broccoli, and there's a pear over there. Oh, and I think there's a mushroom as well, so I think there's 4 total. Let's hear that sound one more time. Whoa. Oh no, it's this one. Whoa. Okay. slight. Maybe I'll play the new sound I did. See what I think of it. I'm hoping this shows up. Let me just mute the music. Start it again. Hopefully that's not too loud. Yes, this sound when you open the designer. It's quite good. And then you close it and it makes like a slightly subtle. I'm not even sure what that is. I think it's a tape measure. And then if you access it through a project, you get the paper folding sound as well. It's subtle. Yeah, it's got a kind of a clockwork thing going on. I think, let me just do it again. I need to, I'm worried something's going on where the sound is playing before the visual is actually loading. And I feel like you don't get the sense of it because there's the things that go along the side of the screen. But I don't know if I'm just going crazy. I'm going to pay close attention now. There is that bug. I need to fix that. Yeah, it just appears. I'm wondering how I can fix that. I wonder why it's doing that as well. Maybe a signal on that it only plays the sound on the visibility changed? I'm not sure. That's probably the way to do it, I guess. But yeah, I think it loses the effect when it just appears like that. It's only the first time, it's because it's loading in. And then I'm trying to get what I was working on yesterday. So it's I feel like hearing it now. I spent ages in that sound and it's not quite as good. Where it snaps there. But I've got the visual as well. Sure do wish Godot had some viable options for loading stuff ahead of time. Marking it as this is important, have it ready to go when I need it. In Hive Time, I instantiate every model and particle effect in a special place that players don't see, so there are no loading delays. I'm trying to think what I do. Should I wish Godot had some viable options? So if you instantiate, I keep forgetting to change the name of the function every time I do that. But yeah, if you instantiate a thing, does it not like? I have a problem on Switch when it shows a visual for the first time. There's a bit of stuttering. I'm hoping these arrows here. I changed it to these arrows so they don't impede this visual here, which is kind of like the selection. I think it's okay. And I just noticed the that should work. That works okay. And then I go back. So yeah, I need to. It's currently selecting, because it's not technically selecting the table. but because the mocha pot is now nested as part of the table, it's sharing its opacity, and so both are being faded out. Whereas if I go here, it's selecting the table and then it selects the thing, and it's okay. It's a bit of a pain. Like there, it's okay. I wonder if I just need to make the sound quieter. I suppose I use very few shaders in the game. Although the difference pre-baked shaders make for the Nintendo Switch, it was huge. Basically made the game viable for the platform. So it must be doing something. So I'm not too sure what the shaders are. But then I think if you do the particle effects, because I don't know if it probably won't do it, but in the game there's like if you stand still for a little bit, some flies will kind of fly off into the direction of the next objective, and they were adding 30 seconds to the load time, just them. And I mean the main scene has like probably could be tens of thousands of nodes, so I just think it's funny that those two would add, almost double the load time. So I don't know if those are shaders. I don't know too much about what's going on under the hood there, but it seemed to fix it. But just going through, wondering whether or not to just remove those for the Switch. So it's nice that generally, both versions of the game of the PC and the Switch are identical, apart from the rendering and the frame rate. It renders at 720p, and then I've locked the frame rate at 30. Although I'm close to getting it to 60, but I don't think I'll ever get it super smooth. So I think 30 is okay. The worst part is the loading stutters that never happen in the editor, but happen in builds. I always want things to run better for users than they do for me, and Godot gives me the opposite. Oh, so when you say the editor, you mean like when you run a scene in the editor? Yeah. I do feel like in my head I always have this I just sort of think, it'll be better in the build because it's probably doing some buildy optimization things, but I don't think there's nothing to actually back that up. It's just something I feel. I don't know if I've ever encountered it being literally worse in builds. Everything's already loaded for you and ready to go. Yeah, no, I have noticed that actually. Or I don't know, like if it's been a little while and I load into the game, stuff does take longer. I've noticed that, and I do wonder I don't know if it's doing something in the back end with people's games, but probably not. Like if someone loads the garden path and then reloads it, does it load quicker? next time. I actually don't know. It's always been fast enough on PC that I've not been too worried. And then Switch is such a, you know, the beautiful thing about Switch is you know that like everyone has the same thing, you know, you've got the same thing to test it on. Berries from OS and my machine, the graphics driver makes a cache. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's going on with the Garden Path. I've seen folders that have convinced me. Mm-hmm. I've spoken to people on AMD cards and they seem to get cleared out each time. Oh, okay. I've just recently, I used to always have AMD cards and I've just recently gone to NVIDIA. And I, you know, noticed basically no meaningful difference anyway. I'm sure there's a lot going on that's different. I do like the I don't know if AMD must now have their own version of this, but the thing that like uses procedural whatever, I don't know, they call it AI, I don't know if it's actually AI, but where it like you run the game at like a low frame rate and then it sort of imagines the higher resolution and it makes games run like way faster. That's cool. I feel like I'm untapping potential. No, I'm tapping into potential. And I kind of don't mind. I kind of don't mind when games, yeah, temporal AA. Just enjoyed kind of squeezing more frames out of games with that. But it's just one of these things, like I've had the same graphics card since I had the same graphics card since 2016 and I upgraded just the other month. And so I feel like I'm behind on a lot of like what's actually possible. And I'm just like learning about it. I'm like, whoa. Screen space ambient occlusion. It feels like relinquishing a hell of a lot of control to the graphics driver and whatever stuff the machine learning that drives it was trained on. Can't temporarily on a game. It's a little unsettling for me. Are you ready? I mean, I just don't know enough about the metal sort of stuff side of things. I just like that it makes a game run fast. It's very bad at some aspects of the UI. I'm assuming you want it. There must be a way for it to, to tell it not to do it for the AI for the UI layer. I'm guessing that's what most games I'm toggling it for are doing. Okay. Yes, those always caught me off guard in the Garden Path, sort of those things that kind of are kind of UI, but then kind of not UI. I spent so long doing... No, I can't remember now. There was something... There's a bunch of UI in the game that... I feel like you used to be able to like set something to 100% raw colour and then put it on like 99Z index, and you'd get this like pure white thing that sits on top of everything else. But for some reason, I feel like that doesn't work anymore. And I had to redo a lot of UI. I think maybe it was Godot 4. But then the whole way the game is layered has changed about a dozen times with viewports and whatnot. Like the old days where everything was just one thing and I could see where everything was. Now like every single piece of UI is like its own little complex nugget. Endless containers. It's kind of fun being intimately familiar with your own little systems, though. I suppose that makes me kind of happy. The canvas layer holds the viewport texture that's rendered to by this camera, which only renders these layers the sun. The number one thing... I'm trying to remember now. So I've got the world lighting. So if I set, do I have? If I just set it to like midnight, and then put a lamp down. What are they called? Lampstone. There's something annoying where, so in order to get this nice, like, glowy effect here, can you see my mouse? I can't remember now, but it's got its own canvas layer thing, but it has to, like, duplicate that into a higher one that's beyond the viewport, that's reading the location of the camera, like, at all times. I feel like every year, or every time I go back to it, I'm like, surely it doesn't need to be that complicated, but it is. It's much more performant anyway. You have to keep them in sync. Yeah, so it's not actually... It looks like it's tied to the lamp, but it's not. Because like the way the player's lantern works is it's just swapping in a texture that's the size of the screen with a hole cut out in the middle. And in order for the light to look decent, it has to appear over that darkness. Because I can't cut a hole out of the darkness. This is all performance stuff as well. Like I think because it used to use Godot's like light system, but then you'd have so many lights on screen and it would just bring it all to a crawl. And I like the more subtle effect it gives. Actually, I prefer the look of it because it used to be these kind of blobs of light. It kind of worked, but I just think I like how the light kind of I like here how when you move near it, it kind of gets lighter. I feel like it has a sort of a more cinematic look anyway, and that the lights aren't too distracting. Like if I turn off the lantern, like you can tell there's a light on, but it's not blinding you. And the main focus light is around the player itself. It got quite busy before. It does have the problem if there's too many lights, if there's like a load of characters around, that it like blows up, exponentially gets light, and you get this like supernova of... But there's probably a better way of doing it. But And then then it becomes a real pain with the player when you're playing 2-player, because then you have to create a second copy, and put it into the second player's viewport, and then also track that, but with the offset, and then in such a way that it's not like going over into the other player's viewport. Yeah. Which is one of these things where I'm still not convinced it should work, but it does. So I just don't touch it. And there's like a line of code where if I put, when there's just this code and for some reason it only works because, I can't remember now, like it only works because they put a parse line in or something, and if I don't, then if I don't, the light in the second player's viewport like appears consistently 10 pixels slightly off from where it should be, like even though it's updating on every physics frame. Like I have no idea. I've spent so long trying to understand it, but yeah, if it works, just keep moving forward. I don't know. It's one of the things I really don't like about the way the game works is those lighting things. If I could figure out a better way. But yeah, it's performant. It looks good. We move on. There were some bugs when on release where some lights would just appear in random places, because again they were like desyncing, but doesn't matter if it's magic. Oh yeah, the game's out. Been out. End of July we launched. So just keeping it topped up with some content and seeing how it goes at the moment. Stuck on contract work and it slipped by. Oh, that's okay, cheese. Oh, thank you. Yeah. It's nice knowing that I don't have launch looming over me. I think that was just always a whole thing, and it was a whole thing. But it's like, it's a little while ago now. It's found, I think it's found a good little audience of people who are understand kind of where I'm going with it. And yeah, I mean, it feels surreal not working on it because I have done for like 6 years of my life. So, keeping busy with it still. I think it kind of, the transition kind of, I think the main thing is that I'm learning how to be like really careful with my updates to the game, because I know I can't just put a line of code that accidentally deletes everyone's files. And so I'm like learning to be really, I'm getting a good kind of daily structure where I'll have all the changes done at the night, in the evening, but then I've got a new rule: do not push in the evening. I'll read through all my changes, and then I'll wake up in the morning, read through all the changes again, and then live in the morning. That's kind of what's been working for me, because then you get the fresh head. I get to reflect on what I've done, and if anything has gone horribly wrong, I'll be there. I'm not going to be asleep if it happens. Nice thing about Hive Time is they can add new vignettes and BFACs and stuff. It's all zero impact. That's cool. Yeah, and I do that's the nicest stuff to work on. As soon as I start like working on save files and stuff, I get so freaked out, really freaked out, which I was doing recently. I do so many tests, that it's probably it's just because I'm just so afraid there's something I've missed. But if it's just something like add a hat, like I know I can just add the hat, and everyone, it's going to go fine. But as soon as you start, like, because recently I had to do a thing where, particularly on Switch, if you had like a very large inventory or you created lots of storage, it was kind of iterating over those files. Every time it saved, and it was just getting longer and longer and longer. And so I just needed a way that, like, if those files weren't being changed, that the save data doesn't need to change. Which sounds really simple, but then the big question is how do you know whether or not the data has changed? That's like the whole thing, right? So yeah, a little bit scary. But then I thought the worst case impact is that you put something in inventory and you come back and it's just not there when you come back, which like could be a pain. But in theory, it shouldn't wipe your inventory, which we did have happening on launch. There was a bit of that, but I figured that out. But again, it was okay that it was early enough that people were, didn't have these huge save games that they had big investments in. And it wasn't happening too often. So that's the worst. The worst thing, yeah, the inventories wiping. I was like, inventories after a certain point would wipe as they were being iterated. Do you stick version numbers in your save files? I do. I don't really utilise that very much, though. I think there's a few things that check a few things. I can't remember. It's been a long time. And then, yeah, in the second patch we put for Switch, had a funny little loading thing where it would request rain to load twice or something, and then if it did it, there was a large enough window on Switch that if it got the second thing and the rain hadn't already loaded in, then the value would be null or something, and then it crashed. So people were loading in when it was raining and it just wasn't working. Which is annoying because it was just like, I noticed rain wasn't enabled or something, and I was just like, oh, that's weird, and then I just toggled it on, shipped it, and then ideally you never use it, but it's a nice safety net to have if you ever end up with a bug and need to fix specific legacy saves. Yeah, it's just I've not had to use it really, but I've always had it in there. I've got it. I mean, the way the game saves its data is it's quite friendly. It's very kind of, it goes through everything, and if it'll use what it can, and it'll work with what it can, but it's not gonna like crash and burn if it can't, which is always kind of. So actually, like, I'm loading. I'm able to load saves from ages ago, but then I can also load saves. And it works the other way around. I'm able to. It made sense in my head. Hang on. I never thought to do before I worked on Day of the Tentacle. I had to change something in old save, and the approaches they use are really eye-opening for me. I'm sure, yes, the kind of thing, like, I've completely designed my own save system, and I think it would probably be really interesting to learn some sort of internal tips and tricks, but I'm pretty happy with it. But that's experience, isn't it? That's how it goes. I think, like, having the foresight, I'm learning this recently, but like a way, building something into the version you're currently working on that will help you. I'm trying to think of an example. It's like, I really wish I've set up a system where I can like side load saves into the game that helps me particularly on the Switch, because on PC you can swap stuff around all the time. But I wish I had a way where old save supported, having the foresight to think, oh, I might, yeah, exactly. So specific states, and like having the foresight to be like, I might want to do that in the future. But it's not quite as simple as that. I'm trying to think what I'm trying to think. Like to be able to load something you've not even made yet, if you know what I mean. But it would still have the function to load something in, if that makes sense. Because I sort of want to test something on an old version, but I have a new bit of data, and I don't even have the capacity to put that data in the old version. For example. It'd be handy. When was Day of the Tentacle then? That was before my time, I think. Not to make you feel old. Or was it? Oh, they remastered it recently, didn't they? Yeah, 1993. I should play that. I think I've got enough love for the genre. Ah, okay, it was the remaster. Fair enough, fair enough. Yeah, I feel like I've got enough love for the genre that I should, like, pay heed to the classics. Wait. I was doing Manic Mansion. Maniac Mansion? I'm having a... what do they call it? What do they call it? Mandela Effect. Whoa, ooh, just hit my hand. I played it first, came out, and it was called From a New Relationship, the game I already loved. Yeah, Bernstein Bears. It's where you're so willing not to be wrong that you invent an entire new parallel universe. Like, I think the Pikachu one, with the tail, did he have a black tail? I think that's just because Pichu has a black tail, right? I think people are just, like, combining the two, or, like, what's Raichu's tail like? Has that got a... Oh no, that's just a thunder thing. There it is. Does seem right, but again, it could just be us combining some subconscious understanding of his ears and just applying it to his tail. Deity is fascinating, kind of smack dab in the middle of the golden age of point-and-click adventures, but you still pay attention. You can see they're still experimenting. I didn't realise it was Maniac Mansion 2, effectively. Oh, it'd be good to see like a timeline of all the games. I'm sure it's possible. Oh, and then Full Throttle, and then Curse... Oh, no. Ah, okay. That's Monkey Island 2, isn't it? Is there a lot of fan art with the fan strike? Pikachu... fan art. Good question. Is this the way to look? I don't know. I kind of regret searching this now. I sort of thought I would. Or if I go, what's the best way to like... If I DeviantArt Pikachu, am I going to be okay? Am I going to come out the other side? We're okay. Yeah, no, it looks like... looks like they adhere to the tail. There's some... I'm not too sure what's going on here. It's like half Pichu. Aside from the Edison's, Bernard's tentacles are the only characters from the original Maniac Mansion. Oh, okay, so it's got... I mean, I never played Maniac Mansion, so I think Maniac Mansion might be a little too... a little too old. I don't know, I think I might struggle. But I would like to play Day of the Tentacle. Oh, really? Well, there you go. Wait, was it much longer? Was it kind of like a... if I go back to Tim Schafer... Oh, so 3 years between... No. Oh, when was Maniac Mansion? 1987, so yeah, it was quite a... It was one of these things where they were able to... It was technically possible. Proved to be a hurdle for the remasters out of ship. Oh, right, okay. I think it'd be reasonable to come to a conclusion like we don't need to do the... Unless do you need it for the storyline? Or is it just like a cool technical feat that you could fit the whole game into the game? Or is it just one of those? A bit like in Animal Crossing, you used to be able to play all the old arcade games, didn't you? I felt like they were just kind of showing off that it was possible. There's some spare space in the disc. Someone suggests it's a joke. Yeah. So you don't need to play it, I'm guessing. It's not like... It's not like, oh, you got to get to... There's some kind of meta thing about getting to level 2 or something. I don't know. Oh, yeah. I think it really shows a sign of devs that care, for sure. But I think it would have been, it's one of those things where... I'm trying to say this as like, yeah, I think it's a really good thing they included it, but it wouldn't have been missed, and that's a sign, including the things that wouldn't be missed is a sign that the devs care. I'm not saying it's not a good feature, if that makes sense. I think the main reason it's not called Maniac Mansion is because they wanted to make a standalone game. It won't be limited to the first game's audience. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I feel like nowadays it's very common to just use the name of anything, isn't it? That tends to be the strategy. Build familiarity. Ooh. Oh, it's coming up to my lunchtime. Thanks for watching, guys. This is part of my experiment to stream more often. We're going to see how it goes. LucasArts also did Dark Forces 2 at the time. Naming hasn't been their strong suit. Is LucasArts still going? Do they do... I feel like the answer to that is yes. Did they do... I feel like they did. depending on how you define still going. So they got swallowed by Disney. Okay. So it's kind of a, yeah. Because it was George Lucas, wasn't it? That's cool. I kind of always forget that. They're effectively shut down and the brand is just the licensing IP. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, plenty of tabs as per. Let's go back, remind ourselves of all the great things. Olive Oil, Inkscape, Krita, Goliath Frogs, Will Wright, Spore, Tiny Life. Oh yeah, and we started with the Kaliningrad Oblast. Nice one. Alright, thanks guys. Yeah, should be hopefully live, if all goes to plan, Tuesday afternoon, I think is what I'm going to do. So sorry, it might not be in your time zone, Cheese, but thanks for stopping by on the Thursdays as you can. Oh yeah, if you're able to give it some, if you're able to check it out, no pressure, Cheese. Always curious to know what you think. But yeah, stay hydrated. Stay sharp, stay clean. And I'll see you all